Now, really, it's my honor and privilege to introduce someone that really, for generations of Vandals, really doesn't need an introduction. He is the former Dean of Students. He's an Alumni Hall of Fame inductee. He is our friend. He was our mentor. And I'm just thrilled to have Dean of Students, former Dean of Students, Dr. Bruce Pitman with us. Welcome, Bruce.
Thanks. You can just keep going on and on.
Okay, I've got three more pages of introduction here I can do.
Hey, what a joy! What a joy to see the few faces that have already come up on the screen, and even in the short few minutes that we had before the program started telling stories, and telling stories that are important about the fundamental relationships that we have enjoyed over time. And I'm grateful that you have invited me to be a part of this, Kathy and Tim and Christy, because University of Idaho was and is and will continue to be a very, very special place for me and for my family. And so I'm grateful to be able to continue the relationship and help out in a few ways. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So I want to do a check-in with you first. How are you and yours doing with the sheltering in place?
We're grateful. We're grateful because we know that this is a very difficult time for a lot of people. It's an awkward time for us, but you know, I'm grateful for our health. I'm grateful for being in a very safe place called Moscow, Idaho. We have very, very few infections, at least formally diagnosed. We've only had 3 or 4 in this entire period of time. And so, you know, everyone's taking a great deal of compassion on each other and being careful. But I think fundamentally we feel much safer than a lot of other people in the United States right now. And, you know, it's also given us time to focus on other important things. I have heard a number of journalists talked about the great pause, that this is for some of us who do have privilege, who are not on the front lines, it's an opportunity for us to you know, think about the things that we value and take care of ourselves, get some exercise. Moscow is a very different place right now, just as is the rest of the world. It's a very quiet place. Campus feels like the twilight zone when you walk up and walk around right now. But you know, again, in general, we're doing very well and just grateful.
Good. You're right about campus. It's such a weird dichotomy, right? Spring is the time when, you know, the farmhouse stereo is blaring across the street from my office, and the students are out on their blankets on the admin lawn, and the frisbee golf is going on, and you know, the library is full because finals are coming up, and it is just so different now, and everything's in bloom. The Camperdowns are starting to bud out. It's just gorgeous. But I know you walk around campus a lot, and it's very different.
Yeah, the last month or two of school, I had always gotten a reputation of being the guy who prayed for really bad weather, and so that you know, the SAEs and the Fijis and the Delta Chis would keep their pants on. And I particularly prayed for bad weather on particular weekends, and then wished that the sun would come out the day before commencement. And more often than not, I did pretty well, actually. But this particular season, it is just quiet. It is just quiet.
Right. So, you know, you've seen a lot of change, though, over the course of your time at the university. I mean, you came in, what, 1973?
Yes.
How many students were there then? And what did you watch over the course of your career happen at the University of Idaho?
I think total enrollment, graduate school, undergrad, when I first started was around 7,000, and 7,300. And certainly things were quite different. I think that some of the folks here on this Zoom meeting will remember that the drinking age was 19, which had its own particular challenges and hazards. And we were coming out of an era where there was still a lot of campus unrest related to Vietnam War. I mean, it was a very, very active, vibrant time, and some of it was great, and some of it was crazy. But it still had that fundamental value that we treasure now, and that is a deep commitment to relationships. And the heart and soul of it was the residential campus experience, and that's as true 40 some years later as it was in 1973. So a lot of things were pretty challenging in 1973, simply because, again, the institution was moving from assistance, moving from a model of in loco parentis to in loco nothing. and I felt like I spent probably a big chunk of my career trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Understand.
Yeah.
Did students fundamentally change over the course of your time?
There were certainly differences, but at the heart of it, when they come to campus, they're trying to figure out who they are and where they want to go, and redefining their personalities and their relationships. And do I go to church even though mom and dad isn't here? Who am I? And those kinds of issues, I think, are almost eternal for this cohort. And they ask questions differently. They have different access to educational tools. They have different educational challenges, and certainly technology and technology particularly has transformed much of that. But at the same time, there are still that eternal quest for who am I and what am I going to be when I grow up, and attempting to sort that out. And at a place like the University of Idaho, they sort it out with friends. They sort it out with roommates. They sort it out with pledge brothers, pledge sisters, and that's part of the magic of the place.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of time there. What are some of the highlights? Those best days?
Oh, I love commencements. I love commencements because it was such a joy seeing smiling and almost disbelieving parents at times. and those students walking across the stage who candidly I think sometimes didn't know whether they were going to make it or not. And those were special moments. I certainly we won some bowl games. Those were great fun. And I think that there were other big celebrations. The university centennial, for one, where we had a year-long set of particular celebrations that acknowledged the contributions of important alums, but also just celebrated some of the milestones that went along the way. So, again, though, I have to say at my heart, commencement number one, and the other was the Vandal Walk, when new freshmen come from the Kibbe Dome up to the Adlon, and they're led by the marching band and the university president and welcomed by the faculty. And there's that moment the day before classes begin when that freshman class is out there on the lawn, and they're just enjoying the shade under the trees and the music, and they're excited and a little bit nervous, and at the same time they're there celebrating that next step. So beginning and endings, I think, have been pretty important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At the Essence, you've seen a lot of Vandals. in your opinion, what does it mean to be a vandal? What makes it, we talk about the vandal family, and I know I've experienced it a lot more directly now in this position, but what does it really mean to be a vandal? And if you need 2 hours, I think we've got enough time to
Yeah.
know that.
Like I said, I think it is being a part of a rich, vibrant learning experience in a place, in a residential campus where important relationships are formed. And sometimes those relationships are the peers, but often they're with faculty, they're with staff, they're with, that one faculty person in the College of Business who just grabs you by the collar and says, hey, grow up, you need to do this, I believe in you, and you can do better than this, and they challenge you. And or the person who takes you on a alternative service break to the Gulf Coast, and you're cleaning up messes after Hurricane Katrina, and it's the first time that student has ever been on a plane, and there they are in a completely different environment, and they feel like, well, they are learning in a very, very different and transformative way. And those are all part of the Vandal experience, and can be life-changing.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about retirement. What's it like? She said eagerly.
It's been good. I feel very fortunate to be retired in Moscow, Idaho. I get the best of both worlds. I can enjoy the university, but I don't have any responsibility.
That sounds good. Yeah.
It goes a lot deeper than that, but we have an opportunity to enjoy many of the wonderful cultural and athletic events that take place. But I also get to enjoy and continue to enjoy the 40-some years of relationships. When people come into town for events, get to have a cup of coffee or a beer and share stories. It's a simple place to live. It's an easy place to live, and so I'm glad to be here. And I also try very hard to stay out of the dean of students' hair, and contribute when I can. And but again, try to be pretty careful about that. There are a lot of ways of being involved with the university without being directly involved with student affairs. And as Kathy knows, last year I had the opportunity to be president of the Retirees Association, and it was just another way of engaging with the university, and doing it in an interesting way. So we're blessed. We've got good health. Moscow, Idaho is one of those places that our 3 Vandal children love to come back and visit. And so it is also a place of the heart for them. So we're grateful. Yeah.
You haven't just been hanging out. You've been pretty busy with some other things in your retirement. You've been heavily involved in a program called Family Promise. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. I've been heavily involved with this program that helps homeless families find places to live. And it's called Family Promise. There are affiliates of Family Promise in many parts of the United States. But we started this affiliate nonprofit 6 or 7 years ago, and I probably spend a couple hours a day helping with some aspects of it. But and it's fruitful. The families that we bring into the program are generally able to find a place to live within about 90 days, and we've got an 80% success rate. So it's good work. It's meaningful work. It's a good thing to spend time on. I've also been involved with a city commission on affordable and fair housing. Also get to be a chaplain at Gritman Hospital. which I told them when they offered this opportunity, hey, look, I'd spent enough time down in the ER in wearing my Dean of Students hat that I feel pretty comfortable walking the halls upstairs. So
you walk in and they pour you a cup of coffee and say where you've been, well, good to see you, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But Moscow is one of those places that you need to be careful in raising your hand, because there's always lots of good ways to serve.
But that's kind of been a theme for your whole life, Bruce. I mean, you have lived a life of service, and like, what drives that? How and why is that important to you?
Wow. There's going to be a big pause. I think that, we're on this earth for a short time. And when you have privileges and when you have opportunity, you need to give part of that back. And it is also meaning giving. I mean, it gives meaning to important things that I value. And so thanks for asking, and it is important to me.
We have several questions that I want to get, and we'll probably open up for questions for a few questions now, and then we'll get back to the other ones. But question 1, can you ask Bruce what his top 3 to 5 recommendations to Scott Green would be?
Wow. Recruit. Yeah. Enrollment. I mean, that. I think that is so fundamental at this point. I think a second recommendation is what he's already doing very well, and that is being visible throughout the state, making those friends both of alumni and business leaders and political leaders. And those are the relationships that he'll be trading on for the remainder of his career. And one of the challenges, candidly, that we have had as an institution is that we've not had presidents here long enough to build on those relationships that are initially part of that orientation tour around the state. And Scott needs to stay here and make a longer term commitment, and frankly then use those relationships for the benefit of the university. I think that's just fundamental. And he's an excellent communicator. He has got a wonderful smile. He has his own Vandal stories. And at a point that's pretty important. And he is able to translate his experience, his family's experience into, I think, what his hopes and aspirations are for the institution. So yeah, recruit, get out there and make friends, and stay here and be able to get through this first incredibly hard year, or maybe incredibly hard 2 years or so, and then make that longer term commitment. The other recommendation is something that he's already done as well, and he and the other university presidents have seemed to build a good colleague friendship team, and I think are working to the betterment of higher education, and reducing some of the tension and some of the competitiveness that marked the last couple decades, actually. And so I really do believe that Scott and his team are the right people for this moment, but it is a very hard moment.
No doubt. Okay, so I'm just going to do a preface on this next question. I'm just reading them. I didn't submit them. I'm just reading them. Okay. You got to work with a number of presidents. Who was your favorite and why?
Oh, I'll be generally political and say that they each brought their own strengths to the work. I do think that certainly Tim White was the most student-oriented president that I ever worked with. He made himself available to go into living groups and go to funerals, student funerals, and do things that were uncommon for a president. But certainly Bob Hoover, in his own way, did some remarkable things for the institution. And I like I said, each sacrificed a lot. I mean, when you make that commitment to be a president, you have you have just made that commitment to almost no private life. You've made a commitment to a lifestyle where you're on planes all the time, and you've really made a commitment to a lifestyle as much as a profession. And it's really hard work. It's really hard work.
Okay. What are your honest comments regarding the value of the Greek system to the University of Idaho, both the positives and the negatives? And as a member of the Greek community itself, you've lived it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think that the fraternity sorority system at Idaho has created a very unique, wonderful contribution. And there have been hard days, and there are hard days. And but on balance, I think that those fraternities and sororities build deep friendships that last. And the last year, I've had the privilege of going to two centennial celebrations for fraternities, and I've been to several for some of our women's fraternities as well in the last handful of years. And when you see people come together who have changed each other's lives, and they have contributed so much to each other, and you can go ahead and talk about the dollar contributions that they make to the institution, or you can also talk about the direct service that is provided, being on advisory boards and the foundation and the alumni board. They tend to make a massive contribution to the institution. Saying all of that, I think that any of us who have been involved know that there have been moments and very difficult situations that have come from bad behavior and from situations where the members of a particular group weren't living up to the values of their institution and of their fraternity or sorority. They would go down a different path, and when that would occur, it obviously causes a stain on the reputation of the Greek system, but the University of Idaho as well. I think that for any of us who have been out there recruiting over time, sometimes it's whispered and sometimes it's said directly, the concern about a party image. And I've been on a lot of campuses. And and spent a lot of time with my colleagues from other institutions. And our campus, and this is not to soft pedal the hard things that happen, but hard things happen on residential campuses everywhere. And you have to be upfront about it. And it's part of also the process of growing up. We laugh about 18-year-olds, quite frankly, that their brains are not fully developed until they're about 23 or 24. there are consequences of that. And but again, um, I think that any of my colleagues on other campuses would say that they have similar challenges with students who live off campus, students who live in other residential settings. And it becomes very focused when it happens in the name of a fraternity or a sorority. It really does. But again, the Greek system has been, on balance, a great asset to the University of Idaho.
This is kind of a follow-up question from someone else who says the Greek system is disappearing from universities across the nation. It's been such a major part of U of I. Do you see it continuing there?
I do think it will continue. It may be smaller, but at the same time, the challenges that our Greek system has had at the university in the last handful of years is more directly related to the decline in overall enrollment. I think that with enrollment numbers down, there are just fewer people to go through the recruitment process and occupy the chapter houses. So I'm not sure that there's a strong bias against or a social wave against fraternities and sororities right now in this area, but there clearly has been challenges related to a decline in enrollment.
Sure. Sure. The one thing I would add, just from my perspective, the one thing the Vandal Greek system has going for it is its alumni. They're passionate, they're involved, they speak up and they step up, and to me that's a harbinger of just good things to come. So thanks, Bruce. Here's a good one. Would you ask Bruce if he has any tips for fostering a community during stressful or trying times? Not that any of us would know what that's like right this moment, but yeah.
Repeat the question.
Sure. Do you have any tips for fostering a sense of community during stressful or trying times, like the one we're in right now?
Well, I think that we're all learning a lot more about technology, and we're if any good is coming out of where there is good coming out of this difficult situation, but I do think that taking time to tell people that you care and doing something as archaic as sitting down and actually writing a letter and putting it in the mail will freak some people out, but it will make somebody know that you spent time thinking about them for the length of time that it took to write the letter. I think that it is also, this time is helping us understand how much we do value those relationships. And, when things loosen up again, I know the public health people would not support this, but somehow we've got to get back and do some hugging and taking care of each other in very personal ways. But I think that right now I see countless acts of kindness that are taking place, and if you want to feel a part of community, this is a pretty good time to write a check. This is a pretty good time to find out what the food bank needs. This is a pretty good time to be connected to your community where your community has needs.
Great. Here's another question. How do you avoid burnout when you're working in higher education?
Truly, you have to do the basics. You need to get some exercise. You need to make sure that you make some time for yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to not be of value to other people very long. And I had my own ways. I have a deep faith, and so engaging in religious practices was important and is important to me. But getting exercise and making sure that you carve out some time to be with the people that you love, and that uh, I think that um, you have to keep finding, and it's a struggle to to find those balance points, and but keeping some degree of balance over the long haul. You know, often when we would have new professionals come into the office, they would work like crazy for 6 months. Never, I just say, take a day off, take some time, go get out of here, go for a hike, get some exercise. And it was really hard to convince them that they were not that they were afraid they couldn't be replaced. And I think we all have to show ourselves some grace, and uh, we each have to do it in our own way. But again, uh, being with family at important times, taking some time to read, get some exercise your faith, do some things that are different than what you're doing at the office every day. I think Kathy's frozen.
I think we might have lost Kathy. I don't know what happened to hers. Yeah, we always have those technology glitches, don't we, Bruce? So the next question, Bruce, will be, where did your kids go to school?
The University of Idaho, each and every one. They came here in spite of me. We gave them the option of looking at other places, but they decided to come and go to school on the campus where their dad was dean of students. And we had a deal. If I saw them on campus, I wouldn't speak to them. If they spoke to me, things would be good. But it was a particular joy because we had their pledge brothers and pledge sisters over at the house, and it was not unusual on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning to see somebody sleeping on a couch downstairs, and I frankly wouldn't know them until later, and so it gave us an opportunity to be engaged in campus life in a very different way. So it was a very rich experience for me, and like I said, they survived it.
Yeah, that's good. The next question that I have, and this is our last one, so if anybody has any other questions, please let me know. But somebody said, what do you think of your building remodel? And what is your vision for that building?
Hey, they didn't even give me a parking place, okay? So for those who are outside of the Moscow area, they have spent the better part of a year transforming the outside of the old student union building. The siding was starting to fall off. And it was not only an eyesore, but kind of a liability. And so they have taken the year and they wrapped it very carefully so we couldn't see what was going on the other side of the wrapping paper. But they put a new facing on the building, and it from a distance from the street, it looks very brick-like and fits in very well with the rest of campus. So they've done a nice job, and it was something that needed to be done. I have very funny moments in Moscow when I'm like going to Tri-State or going through the check stand at Safeway, and I give, the person my credit card, and they'll go, are you? And I go, yeah. And I think that they're amazed that I'm still alive.
Yeah, no kidding. They're like, wait, is that building?
Yeah.
You're named after that building.
So it's kind of fun, and I'm very grateful. Very grateful. Yeah.
So I've had a request for you to tell a story about what you're doing during quarantine with your grandkids.
Oh, I have 2 grandchildren, 11 and 6. They live in Olympia, Washington, and we can't share time face to face now. But they came up with a game which you may be familiar with other forms of it, but they drew pictures of themselves, and my granddaughter's named Addie, and my grandson is named Evan, and so they're Flat Addie and Flat Evan. And so they take this image of themselves around to different places in Olympia, take a picture of them on a hike or some other kind of activity, and then we become pen pals. They write a story about where Flat Addie and Flat Evan have gone, and they send it to us, and then we do the same. We take Flat Addie and Flat Evan to someplace in Moscow and take pictures. Last week it was a campus tour, by the way. We took them up on campus and took pictures in front of the administration building or by the Kibbie Dome, and then we wrote stories to them about us taking Flat Addie and Flat Evan on a campus tour of the University of Idaho. So it's just a way of us being pen pals for the duration of this. So it's kind of fun.
That is fantastic. I hope that has inspired others who have grandkids to start doing the same. Yeah.
So, when Kathy invited me to do this, I asked if this Zoom chat technology had anything that resembled a confessional booth. I think that so many times when I go to alumni events, after those there have at least a glass and a half, maybe 2 glasses of wine, there are people who come up to me and they want to tell their story. They want to confess. They want to talk about something that they feel like has been a burden to them, or simply a story that they want to tell. So I feel like that I'm often, just needing to set up shop at the corner of the banquet room and have a confessional booth. So I was just suggesting to Kathy that, if this had a chat function that was kind of a confessional, that we could work out something here. Like, if folks have stories that they feel like they need to unburden themselves with, if there is something that is a point of guilt, or if they did something that they feel like they never really got caught doing. There were 3 guys who let chickens go at the Gamma Phi house, but the 4th guy didn't get caught. Sometimes a little guilt in not having to pay your dues. And so, basically, Kathy and I were going to invite you all to, as a little fundraiser, to perhaps write your confessional story to the alumni office and write a check for $100 to the scholarship campaign.
Yep.
And then we would send you a forgiveness certificate.
Yep.
And we could call it forgiving certificate, FORGIN. Forgiving. It would be a forgiveness. The early church made a lot of money doing this, and I think that we could work something out so that we could all win here. You all could clear your conscience a little bit, and the Vandal Scholarship Fund could make a little cash, and we'll send you that certificate, the Vandal Forgiveness Certificate.
But you have to write a confession first.
Yeah, but it's got to come with $100, and then you get the certificate. So
So if
just think
anybody's
about it.
interested in that, let us know.
Yeah, it'll work.
Somebody says, no way, Bruce, Vegas rules. So we only have a couple, well, we're almost out of time, but we can, there is a couple more questions. I'm just gonna ask you really quick. What's the hardest thing you've had to deal with as the Dean of Students, and how did you work through it?
The hardest is the easiest to describe, and that was having to go to student funerals, to be blunt. And, that was it. I mean, I could go on and on and on about that, but there were a number of circumstances over the course of my career, and being with those parents and being with those family members was absolutely the hardest.
Yeah. Okay, I can imagine. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want to end on that note. So
No.
somebody asks, can you tell a Terry Armstrong story?
Oh gosh.
And that might be a good note to end on.
Well, many of you remember Terry as being the founder of the Found Money Fund.
Yep.
And Terry just loved to be a prankster as well. And one of the better Terry Armstrong stories actually took place during finals week, actually, one year, when a group of our student leaders, and this happened to be in the middle 70s. So if any of you are on here, you can verify this. But during the few days before finals, it was dead week, a group of our student leaders decided that they wanted to explore the heat tunnels. And they may or may not have had a beer before they went, but they found an opening and they went down, and turns out they got caught.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. And so, at that point we had campus security. We didn't have police. And so campus security took the names, and I got a phone call the next day, and it was like a who's who. I mean, it was chapter presidents, it was Panhellenic and IFC leadership, and I'm just going, oh my God, and some of these folks were just days away from graduating. So what do you do? I mean, what kind of disciplinary action do you take under those circumstances? But at the same time, you have to do something, because it could get out of hand really fast.
No kidding.
And so Terry and I concocted this scheme that we would call all of the perpetrators and tell them that they had to be in the president's office at a particular time, at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something, and they needed to show up with coats and ties. And back then there were no cell phones or anything like that. So part of the scheme was that I called the fraternities, like if there was somebody, for example, at the Fidel House, I called middle of the morning, and you leave messages on the chalkboard, and the message was, Mike so-and-so, show up at the president's office, wear a coat and tie at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So everybody in the chapter house knows there's stuff going on. So anyway, 10 or 12 of these all-stars show up, and they are just almost needing to change their underwear. And they're having to sit out in the waiting room. What they don't know is that the president isn't even in town.
Oh no.
And Terry and I are sitting in the president's office and just making them cool their heels out in the waiting area. And it just, we were chuckling like crazy. And even when we called them into the president's office, and we gave them the stink eye and really, we were serious for a few minutes. And then finally we had to break character and say, we love you. Don't do this again. Be leaders. Go back to your chapter houses. tell them it was a dumb thing to do. And so that group of people ended up for years coming back on homecoming and having these pictures taken on the manhole cover by the steam tunnel where they got caught.
Oh, funny.
Just as a good memory. So
That's fantastic.
there are a ton of Terry stories, but that's one.
Yeah, that is a
I
fantastic
wouldn't look
story
long.
to end on. Yes, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's time. So I just want to say thank you. I'm going to unmute everybody for just a moment so everybody can say well wishes and goodbye and things like that. And I don't want to waste your time, so I'll end it very quickly afterwards. But I just want to thank you so, so much for being here with us, Bruce.
Thank you very much. This has been a joy.
Yes, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for everything you do for the university.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody. Hopefully, if I can figure out how to do it. Okay, you're all free.
Go Vandals!
Say go Vandals.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bruce.
Christy,
Go Vandals.
thank you, Bruce.